there is one single bull run yield farming strategy that I have over $45,000 deployed into, and that is concentrated liquidity pools, not just on Uniswap, not just on Trader Joe, but on other decentralized exchanges. Let's hop into the video. Now, what we're looking at right now is my current DeFi portfolio. As you can see, I have roughly 6 positions in this DeFi portfolio, and I'm not going to be displaying the platforms that I am currently invested into, mainly because I don't want people to just go in and throw in a ton of money into these pools without doing their own due diligence. And at the same exact time, when you go and you throw money into the pools that I'm in, it also dilutes the return that I'm getting, which usually I don't care. But recently, with the growth of the channel and a lot of people coming on board to our one-on-one program, we have seen a lot of TVL increases in some of these pools that I'm currently invested into, so it has become a problem. But first things first is Archimedes Finance. This is Ethereum to Ethereum Plus. Now, this is a normal liquidity pool that's on Convex, and I've spoke about this on the channel in the past. It's basically getting 11% APR strictly on Ethereum, which I'm relatively happy with, and the Ethereum is compounded back into the position, so it's basically a position that grows your Ethereum stash. This is the only non-concentrated liquidity pool that I have in my portfolio. I also have a Uniswap position, wrapped Bitcoin to Matic. I deployed roughly $14,952 into this position. That is currently worth $14,252. However, by being in this position for roughly 14 days, so 2 weeks, I've been able to amass roughly $240 in earnings, which means instead of being down roughly $700, I'm only down roughly $457. But the thing is, if we compare this position to somebody that just held their initial assets, they would have $14,331. But when you add my current position size plus my earnings, I have $14,495. So I actually have more money than the person that were to just hold their money in Matic and hold their money in wrapped Bitcoin, which means I'm outperforming the overall market, and that's exactly why I love concentrated liquidity. If you're not going to get anything else from this video and you're just going to skip past the rest of this video, listen to what I'm saying right now. Since I'm in this concentrated liquidity pool, I'm outperforming if I were to just go put my money in wrapped Bitcoin and put my money in Matic. I have more wrapped Bitcoin tokens and I have more Matic tokens than if I were to do that, which allows me to make exponential returns when assets like wrapped Bitcoin and like Matic rise in the long run. If you guys aren't already subscribed, make sure to drop a like and subscribe with notifications turned on. But if you have been subscribed for a very long time, you know that my personal strategy is to provide concentrated liquidity for assets that I am long-term bullish on while still chasing an income, which means I'm in these assets because I think they're going to rise in the long term. So not only am I going to make all the money from price appreciation, I'm also going to make money on my earnings. So while my earnings might be $242 right now, if I take these earnings and I compound them back into the position, those earnings are going to grow. But also if I were to take those earnings and just go buy Matic or just go buy Bitcoin, which I have done in the past, those are also going to grow. Down here you can see I have roughly $3,200 worth of Matic X. But the funny thing is I only paid for about half of this Matic X. So I acquired half of the Matic X tokens from basically yield farming with concentrated liquidity pools. And granted, I am counting that I have a deposit capital on here, my cost basis when I'm tracking this position, just to see overall profit and loss, but I wouldn't have been able to acquire those Matic X tokens if my concentrated liquidity pools were not printing money. And the thing is, these Matic X tokens simply represent staked Matic. So I take the money from my Matic to wrap Bitcoin position, I put those fees, those earnings into Matic strictly, and I go and I stake that Matic for 4% return. Ultimately, this is a flywheel of me just constantly earning money and constantly increasing the amount of Matic X or the amount of position size that I have to allow me to reap exponential returns in the next bull run. Right now, the overall crypto market is at a point where it's going to go up, it's going to go down. For example, wrapped Bitcoin's only up 1.6% in the past 7 days. When we zoom out and look at the past 30 days, you can see it had a very good incline from roughly November 21st all the way up until December 5th before seeing a retracement. So we are going to be seeing some chop here. The market is going to be moving up, it's going to be moving down. And while it's moving up and down, I'm collecting fees and I'm increasing my position size. That way I can make more money when the market's just strictly moving up. But this wrapped Bitcoin Matic position is currently doing 43%. And granted, that is not a sexy number, but at the same time, that is a very good return for something that only has exposure to wrapped Bitcoin as well as Matic, which are two assets that are very closely correlated. And I haven't had any issues in the past 14 days with going out of range or nearly going out of range. And by the way, if you guys want to learn how I manage these concentrated liquidity pools to avoid impermanent loss, but also always outperform that impermanent loss, I just released a Uniswap V3 mini course. This is meant to teach you the fundamentals of Uniswap V3 and get you in the groove and make you understand what this concept actually is. It's currently only $35, so if you like the content that you see on the YouTube channel, you're ready to go just a small step further, go ahead and pick up that mini course today for only $35. We are going to be raising the price starting January 1st, so I do recommend that you take advantage of this sale while you still still can. As you can see, we already have 124 members of this Uniswap V3 mini course. That's 124 of you that have already taken action to pick up this mini course and start to dive into Uniswap V3. And of course, assuming you like what you see in the mini course and you're ready to work one-on-one with myself or take things a step further and allow us to help you establish a robust passive income portfolio through DeFi, there is an opportunity for you to book a call with myself or one of my team members there. And as you can see, already 46 members have taken advantage of that opportunity and took the leap to work directly with myself one-on-one. But back into the good stuff, I'm also in a render to SOL position, which is actually carrying my portfolio. And I do want to go and mention that I am selling these earnings, not into render, not into SOL, but into other assets that I personally truly believe in. So I've already sold roughly $350 of these earnings into just long-term hodls of assets that I want to increase my position size in. But the good thing is these long-term hodls are assets that I would not normally go out and just throw my own money into. So they're risky assets that have sub $100 million market cap, which means they do have the potential to go down a ton, or even potentially go down to zero, but they also have the potential to go to above a $1 billion market cap and make me a 10, 20, even 30x return from here on out. So I'm not risking my own capital, but I'm taking the earnings that I get from my concentrated liquidity pools and putting it into assets like that. But so far, this render to Solana position, I deployed roughly 72.34 worth of capital into it. It's currently worth 88.61. So I've made a very good profit just from capital appreciation. And that's with pretty much no impermanent loss. I only have $5.50 of impermanent loss. So I've made $1,600 by being in this position, but I've also made nearly $500 from earnings that I wouldn't have had if I were to just go put my money into render and put my money into SOL. Granted, if I put my money into render and SOL, I would be up $1,600, but I would not be up over $2,100 like I currently am. That's a 30% return on investment just in the time span of roughly 13 days, and it's printing a 188% APR. Once again, not going to disclose the platform that this render to SOL position is on because it is performing very, very well for me, and I don't want to sacrifice that performance, of course. Now, the other thing is I also have 3 different stablecoin positions that are earning me anywhere from 18% APR all the way up to 45% APR. And the cool part is this isn't even my capital. Well, it kind of is, but I'm borrowing against some of my blue chip assets to execute these positions. And I take all these earnings and I put them back into my other concentrated liquidity pool positions, like this wrap Bitcoin to Matic or like this render to SOL or other positions. So as you can see, I have roughly $13,000, $14,000 in wrap staked Ethereum. I have roughly $3,200 in Matic X. I have roughly $5,200 in AVAX. I have roughly $2,200 in SOL. I have 6,500 in GOM. I have 7.3K in wrap Bitcoin. All of these assets I'm borrowing against at a 40% loan to value ratio. And I take that borrowed capital, which I'm paying roughly 5% to borrow, and I just invest it into positions like USDC to USDT, earning me 18%, or another USDC to USDT position, earning me 39%, or even LUSD to USDC, earning me 45%. And granted, that allows me to pay back the borrow cost because I'm borrowing for 5%, but on average, I'm earning roughly 30 or so percent on my capital. So I pay back my borrow cost, and then I could start to pay back my overall borrow, but I can also take earnings and I could go and throw them into positions like wrap Bitcoin Matic or render SOL that are doing really, really good for me. This is just a way to earn some additional capital on my assets without having to sacrifice my wrap staked Ethereum or any of my long-term holds. It's just simply leverage, but a very, very safe version of leverage because I don't plan on getting liquidated because I am monitoring this relatively closely and I'm only borrowing 40% against my overall capital. Now, that being said, I am going to drop some alpha on how I actually found these positions. Now, the majority of these are Uniswap V3 concentrated liquidity pools, so you could go over to the pools section on Builder Metrics, which is our own tool that's 100% free for you to use, no catch whatsoever. We don't make any money off of this, but you go to the pools page, it's going to display a ton of Uniswap V3 pools that you could invest into for passive income. And personally, I don't think you should be on the Ethereum network if you're looking for a return that's below 20% or if you have under $20,000 of capital. And the reason why is because even with 20K of capital, if you're earning 20% and you have to rebalance your position every 2 weeks, you're going to pay like $250 in gas fees and earn maybe $300. So it's just not going to be worth it. So personally, I'm going to be looking over on the Arbitrum network. And over here, it's going to print out a list of top pools in the Arbitrum network with the TVL of above $250,000. What I'm going to sort by is the 24-hour fee to TVL ratio. This is going to show me pools that have the best possible ratio. And as you can see, this Ethereum to winner pool looks like it's doing really well. A 24-hour fee to TVL ratio of 0.53%. So I'm going to go click over here, and then I'm simply going to put in my deposit amount. Let's just say it's $7,500 of capital. And then I'm going to toggle this pair to make it a little bit easier to calculate the range. And then my max price, I probably want to put somewhere along the lines of like 36,000, and as you can see, we're very, very close to this min price over here, so I might drag this min price down to something like 1500 or something like that. And then that's about 130% return. I say, hey, I'm happy with that 130% return. I'm putting up roughly 70% of my capital in Winner, which means that I'm ultimately more bullish on Winner than I am on Ethereum. But if I want to get a higher return and be a little bit more active in this position, I could go a little bit more aggressive, where I do a range of something like maybe $32,000 on the top. And then I'll bring this from 1500 to maybe like 1600 or something like that. That gets me roughly 140%. So maybe I want to do 2000 here. Gets me about 145%. So I'm pretty happy with that. So I would go ahead and deploy my capital into this position. And if I don't want to look at Unis Swap V3 concentrated liquidity pools, I can go over to the DeFi Llama yields page, and on the pools section, I could go to attribute and I could click multi-exposure. This is going to show me different liquidity pools. Obviously, it's going to show me some curve stuff that isn't concentrated liquidity pools. It's also going to show me some Uniswap stuff. Remember, this return is just an average return. You actually have to go calculate this return on Builder Metrics or another software. But from here, I might only want to look at pools that have over a $1 million TVL. And I also want to look at pools that maybe include Sol token, because ultimately I'm pretty bullish on Solana right now. My overall Solana stash is up roughly 3x since I bought in back in May. As you can see, there's some doing 3,500%. If we went over on Camino on Sol to Jito, we could do over 1% per day with 1.2 million TVL. I want to personally kind of filter out some of those outliers. I want to look at stuff that's anywhere from like 50 to like 150%. So this is going to be kind of our area. Sold to Pyth, that's doing 158%. This is one of the assets that I currently have in my portfolio. We go look at MSOL to USDC. This is doing 92%. That's pretty good in my personal opinion. If we want to go provide liquidity on GMX V2, we could get 55%. This has a TVL of $18 million. You do have counterparty risk there. Ray to Sol is currently doing 36%. If we have a decent concentrated liquidity multiplier, we could probably get about 40, maybe 50, 60, even 70%, depending on where liquidity is distributed. The point here is you're going to find a lot of opportunities here, and it's important to understand how these opportunities work, and it's important to understand how exactly concentrated liquidity works, and that's exactly what that Uniswap V3 mini course goes over. As always, you guys know this by now if you've been subscribed, but I try to bring you the best value multiple times per week on YouTube, so make sure to drop a like and subscribe with notifications turned on. Happy holidays, and if you guys enjoyed, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.